When summer lies upon the world, and in a noon of gold, beneath the roof of sleeping leaves, the dreams of trees unfold. Hi, I'm Nick from LOTR Wargamers, and this is my 800-point Fangorn army for Middle-earth strategy battle game. Having lived near various woods his whole life, and after seeing the green hills of the Somme reduced to a bleak, corpse-filled mire, Tolkien had a distinct environmentalist streak that the Ents of Fangorn Forest neatly encapsulate. I've always wanted a monster army, and what better monsters than these lumbering tree men?
The Ents are going to war.
I started with this 20-pound job lot on eBay, consisting of the old pewter Treebeard, a fully assembled plastic Ent with a solid poop brown paint job, and a bunch of half-assembled Ent bits. Also from eBay, I picked up an official plastic sprue for £22, giving me one full Ent and more Ent bits for conversion work. The assembled Ent was just repainted, with lichen added for a better looking canopy. I mixed it up by giving the other one a pose that made it look like he was picking up a stone to lob. The Willow Ent was made with a handful of Ent bits, primarily the torso. The head is a chunk of branch, a sort of twig intersection, with wire to form the core of the willow ones. The face was carved from green stuff, and more wire was used to make the hands. All the wire was covered in hot glue to add mass and an uneven, gnarled shape to it. The rest is real wood, particularly the legs. I tried to make the Quickbeam proxy shorter and stouter than the basic Ents, like the official model. But I only really made him stouter, with his chunky torso and arm that is a leg. The torso is two pieces of wood hot glued together. We were short a pair of legs from the job lot, so Quickbeam's legs are press molded. I used green stuff to hide the hot glued parts in order to make it look more authentic, but I wasn't happy with the lines in the bark, because it looked more like fur. I rectified this with a light application of wood filler. Since Beachbone is the dench and doomed Ent, I tried to make him taller and a bit freakish looking next to his companions. The twigs that comprise his body were chosen because of how long and thin they are, as well as the uneven shoulders. These were assembled in a gangly, unnatural pose that is ever so slightly unsettling, doubly so when combined with his backwards left hand, and the weird growth coming out of his shoulder. I added lichen to the other ends to simulate foliage, but I made the conscious decision to keep Beachbone looking threadbare, with only the sparse plastic canopy from the sprue. The orcs he hates so much would crap themselves if they see this trembling towards him. Before we move on to the paint schemes, we have Treebeard. As I mentioned earlier, he's the old pewter version, the one known for being tiny, so the leader looks a bit more imposing. I built his base up vertically to elevate him a little more. To get some inspiration for the bark, I went for a walk around town to take some reference photos. Turns out bark has a lot more colour on it from various mosses and moulds. The trip also confirmed my suspicions. Most trees aren't brown, they're grey! And a few of the brown ones are a browny grey. To achieve this, I primed them in grey cere, and applied a diluted Gravelord and Darkwood speed paint as a base coat. From there I sponged on a mix of Eshin Grey and Gawthor Brown, mixing in more of the Gawthor Brown and or Administratum Grey to varying degrees as I layered up, depending on the tree. On Treebeard in the assembled Ent, I grabbed my AK and used some streaking grime. For this Ent, that resembles a Japanese maple. The muted green is from AK Interactive's Decay Deposit. For the rest, I used ya boy, Agrax Earthshade. I finished off the silver bark with a highlight of pallid witch flesh, then added splotches of white or yellow ink depending on what kind of moss I was trying to emulate. Real, uncultivated forests in Western Europe are dirty, green and covered in moss. So after texturing the bases in a mixture of PVA glue, black and brown craft paints and coconut fibers, I plastered the forest floor in AK Interactive moss texture. The moss and lichen were hard to paint, so I used crushed pigment chalk instead. The colourful dust falls lightly over the uneven surfaces. Where paint would clump, this leads to a much more naturalistic hue. The last things I added were a sprinkling of autumn leaves on the bases, And the clumps of Quickbeam's rowan berries, of course. Here's the full team, ready to tear down some orcish machines. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making the Ents. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you next time.